Hello, this is Mark Sabatella from Outside Shore Music. In this video, I want to talk about primary triads, which is a really kind of fundamental concept to talk about when it comes to harmony. And I talk about them a lot. This is kind of a quick overview of one of the lessons from my harmony and chord progressions course, really one of the earlier fundamental lessons, but it's one that's often worth coming back to because sometimes I think some of us who deal in harmony a lot, we tend to forget about the primary triads because we're so interested in all the complicated things that you can do with harmony and forget about the power of the primary triads. So what do I mean by primary triads? Well, they are quite simply the triads that are built on scale degrees 1, 4, and 5. 1, 4, and 5. So if I have a C major scale, scale degree 1 is C, so that's a C chord. Scale degree 4 is F, so I get an F chord. Scale degree 5 is a G, so I get a G chord. And often when it comes to that 5 chord, we think about a 7th chord, a 4-note chord, so G7. In a minor key, same kind of concept. We have our minor scale and our 1 chord, C minor. Scale degree 4 is F, so F minor, because A flat is in the key. Our 5 chord, we might think about playing G minor because B flat is in the key. And to be honest, in a lot of so-called modal pieces, a lot of folk music, a lot of pieces from the Renaissance or folk pieces, especially like Irish music and so forth, you often see pieces using that minor 5 chord. But in most classical music and most kind of music composed over the last few hundred years, we typically use a 5 chord that's major, B natural, because it kind of gives us a nicer harmony. And then also the 5-7 chord, G7. And we do this because it gives us a nice harmony. We can have our 4 chord, our dominant 5 chord, back to 1. And because it gives us a nice harmony, that is why the scale that includes that note is called the harmonic minor scale. So the nice thing about these primary triads is, well, there's a lot of nice things about them, but one of the nicest is that every note of the scale can be harmonized with one or more of those chords. So in a major key, we can have a C chord on the C, we can have a G chord on the D, we can have a C chord on the E, we can have an F chord on the F, we can have a C chord or a G chord on the G, we can have an F chord on the A G chord on the B, and a C chord on the C, or for that matter, an F chord. But, typically at the end of a phrase, we'll expect to have a C chord. So every note of that scale is found in one or more of those diatonic chords. And the same in minor keys. We can have every single note of that harmonic minor scale found within that scale. And this is really nice because it really means that most melodies come from either the major scale if it's in a major key or the minor scale if it's in a minor key. And therefore this tells us that at any given melody we can probably harmonize with just these diatonic chords. Right? Or just 1, 4, and 5 allow us to harmonize every single note in the major or minor scale, and therefore any melody. And of course, we don't have to change chord for every melody note. It could be, right? We can hold on to one chord and then change only when we feel it makes sense. So, we have our options there. But there's just so much power within those primary triads. And yes, then there's all sorts of other chords we can substitute along the way. But it is really worth getting really familiar with those primary triads and thinking about how any given melody might be harmonized effectively using those primary triads as a starting point.